Hey everybody, Dave Lindbergh in Hong Kong with another episode of the THD Podcast. Today we have Absolute Audio Labs joining us from the Netherlands, and their expertise is in the voice intelligibility realm. So all kinds of different applications in hearing aids, in hearing assist, and different types of things. And we're going to find out more about that. But before we get to that, let's not forget our sponsor, the Alti Association. They'll be having an exhibit at the high-end show in Munich coming up in May, so we encourage people to go take a look at that. So let's not delay. Simon's in Japan. Good afternoon, Simon.
Good afternoon.
And Arends, the founder and CEO of Absolute Audio Labs. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Okay, yeah. So as we were talking in the pre-show, I did get to experience your technology at CES, and perhaps what I interpreted is not the full scope of, or the focus perhaps of where you're going with it, but voice intelligibility is kind of the field perhaps of what you're working on. So maybe just in your own words, tell us what Absolute Audio Labs is working on.
Yeah, so Absolute Audio Labs is making software specifically for people with hearing impairment to enhance speech intelligibility. That's just one of the two main focuses. The other main focus is music perception. And actually, that's where we originated from. So I'm a musician myself. I used to play in bands all around the world, and I damaged my hearing. I got hearing aids, just prescription hearing aids, and they really worked for me in conversations and speech. But for music, they sounded terrible. So I wanted to get some other stuff and solutions for that wasn't around. I started developing my own, and that's how I got started really, almost 10 years ago, developing solutions for people just for music perception. That's really where it started.
And the fundamental of that would be like hearing aids are more of a truncated frequency band of audio that they're trying to define for the listener, whereas music is a much broader spectrum. So is that the reason there's no translation between hearing aids for voice versus music?
Partially that's correct, but there is more to it. I mean, historically, hearing aids, they were built on the technology of the era they were developed in. And that means that, they had to last through the day. So energy had to be really low. And the ASICs that these companies developed to put into the hearing aids to make them really small and energy efficient didn't really allow for proper audio reproduction, but it wasn't really necessary because they had to focus on speech. And when they wanted to add music to that kind of turned out not to really work. I mean, you can do a couple of things to make it sound better than when they're in speech mode, but it's nothing like earbuds, headphones, or anything like that.
What is the experience of using hearing aids with music?
My experience,
Hmm.
It depends. First of all, streaming is a hassle. So audio streaming is a hassle. When you have connectivity, it's typically or Android or iOS, and you don't get just normal connectivity that you're used to with earbuds. I cannot wear earbuds because when I wear earbuds, my hearing aids don't work. Have to take them out. And same with headphones. They start feedbacking. And when you're listening to live music, it's just all over the place. So there you hear, it's hard to describe really, but it sounds really harsh, and it's not. The amplification is a lot in the mid range where the voice is, and that's not necessarily where my dips are in my hearing, and where I need it for some proper audio reproduction. So it really takes the mix out of balance. And then you have compression, then you have all kinds of side effects. So as soon as the compression, the WDRC kicks in, all my high is gone, and then it comes back, and you get all these weird movements going around.
So
Interesting.
So to solve that, I won't guess, but I'll let you tell us what we're doing to kind of normalize and balance out what the listening experience is for music in this hearing aid scenario.
Yeah, I think the approach that we've taken. I'm seeing a message here that The guy that I talked about earlier who wanted to log on has an issue logging on, so I'm not sure what's happening there. But anyway, the approach that we're taking is really a different one from the hearing aid manufacturers. The hearing aid manufacturers, like I said, they built their own ASICs dedicated for voice with their own platform. What we do is we base our technology really on software that we incorporate in the same kind of chips that are being used in true wireless earbuds. And so there's a good amplifier in there. There's a good reproduction of frequencies from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz in there. And you have the proper power to really provide good audio. You have the standard connectivity that you can expect from earbuds with your phone. You can take phone calls and all of that. That's all available. And at the same time, we add the algorithms that build good hearing aids. So that's the other aspect. We've been talking about music quite a bit, but if we look at the speech intelligibility, we have our own noise suppression that really takes the voice out of the surrounding noise. So it's a really dedicated software algorithm built for speech intelligibility. We have our own compression scheme that people with hearing impairment need simply to get the sounds from soft to loud within their hearing range. And the compression that we built is specifically meant to keep the audio in a good quality and not affect the total soundscape so much. We have anti-feedback software that we put in there. So there's a lot of software that we stack onto earbuds, basically. So you get good music reproduction, you get good speech intelligibility, and then we have specific fitting both for music and for speech. So when you do a hearing test and you have your hearing audiogram that is loaded into there, it has a different application when set to music than when it's set to speech.
Let's start right here and go ahead and introduce yourself and your relationship with Absolute Audio Labs.
Yes. So my name is Adrie van Meijeren, and in Renasas I'm working as a director of marketing for audio, and our relation to Absolute Audio is as such that we work together in developing and implementing a strategy for bringing hearing support to Bluetooth chipsets, aiming for TWS, assisted hearing, and hearing aid.
Okay, so the partnership is Absolute Audio Labs is producing the algorithms, and Renasas is providing the DSP core, or did I misunderstand?
The complete chipset that includes the Bluetooth radio and audio processor technology.
Okay. And I guess so the question would be for the average viewer is, beyond having the algorithms from AAL, what advantages is there? Power? Is there connectivity? What's the Renesas advantage?
I think the advantage is that together we're able to offer a platform which scales from standard TWS earplugs for consumers, TWS plus assisted hearing. So that is the group which maybe has some kind of hearing loss but haven't taken any action to get hearing aids. Mm-hmm. Then the true hearing aids, and this is where the true link is with Absolute Audio. And from our customers, it's a common platform approach, and we believe that over time it is becoming very expensive also for hearing aid companies to keep on developing their own chips. And for this reason, to have a common platform and to focus, let's say, on this segment makes a lot of sense.
So I guess you're looking to take advantage of the convergence is one of the buzzwords they use, with over-the-counter hearing aids coming with prescription hearing aids, and then the consumer headphones even able to offer some of those hearing assist benefits at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And TWS is a very competitive market. So to have some unique selling points is a great thing to have. And on top, it's solving real problems for people.
Okay. And it's so the background on Renesas, can you just give us a quick rundown on where that company comes from in terms of like its position as a processor?
Yeah, so Renesas is a pretty big company. So we're in the top 20 semiconductor companies worldwide. Over 20,000 people, headquartered in Japan. And it came together, let's say, as portions from Hitachi and NEC. And our group, former Dialog Semiconductor, was acquired in 2021. And since then, we have been part of Renesas, and within our group or wireless connectivity division, we have been developing wireless technology for audio and voice for 25 plus years.
Okay. Was the Bluetooth block, was that come from Dialog? Was that their core competence?
Correct. So everything wireless has that kind of historic root.
Okay. So yeah, no, it makes sense to have a platform and attack in this market as it's like I said before, it's converging. Um, is there are there applications beyond in the ear that you guys see your platform moving into as your roadmap progresses, or is it focused on
Uh,
the ear at this point?
yeah, probably there's a lot of focus on the ear, in the ear, on the ear, headphones. So that's the kind of product we expect to get designed into. The platform itself will also allow to be used for wireless microphones, yeah, speakers. It's a chipset which is capable of addressing the full range of Bluetooth audio applications.
And are you LE audio enabled already, or is it that in the roadmap?
We will support both LE audio and Bluetooth Classic
Okay.
because right now the number of phones supporting LE audio is still limited. There is a huge legacy on classic phones out there. So for this reason, we believe for the foreseeable future, it is still dual mode, which is being leading in use.
And do you actually have a dual mode IC already that supports LE audio and classic on the same IC?
Correct. It's the dual mode, let's say, a chipset we're working on together with Absolute Audio.
Okay, that's a big deal. And I don't want to veer too much off topic, but do you understand the protocol of LE audio? Maybe we could have a second podcast if you can explain that, because that's a $1 million question these days is what does LE audio enable for people?
Yeah, well, I think LE Audio is especially enabling a broadcast mode. LE Audio, what it addresses is a different audio codec
Mhm.
over the air. It's the LC3 codec. So there's a lower bit rate, and for this reason, also lower power. And the other, I would say, unique feature of LE Audio is the so-called Auracast, which is a broadcast mode.
Hmm.
And within our offering, we're combining the Bluetooth Classic audio with LE audio.
Okay. Um, all right, let's jump back to Absolute. So what inspired you to find a like are you exclusive to Renaissance, or is this or I think I pronounced that wrong. Help me with the enunciation of
Well, yeah, Renesas, Renesas, does it matter? It's
okay. But so
So
is
I hear separate, I hear both.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Apologies for that. Yeah, so Arno, is this something that's exclusive, or are you open to license to others? Not to step on Avi's toes here, but I'm sure the viewers would like to know if there's something they could license if they're married to one particular platform.
Yeah, well, it's not so easy. I mean, first of all, we're not exclusive. We initially built our applications in the first release that we did was specifically for one type of hardware, which was paired headphones. After that, we started building on Qualcomm. So we've been releasing software suites on Qualcomm for quite some time now. But when we met Renesas, it really was very appealing, the offering that they have and what they're trying to do. It really resonates with our mission to bring hearing enhancement to the mass market at an affordable price. So having also LE audio and classic audio both, and I hope that will persist for a long time, because if you look at the third world countries, there's a lot of hearing inability and impairments that is not being addressed. And these people have very old phones, sometimes even GSMs from the early days, and having some kind of support there available at an affordable price for these people, that's something that's really appealing to us. But that's really on a side note. So the offering that Renesas currently have really resonates with us for including all these algorithms into chipsets that go into hearables, into OTC hearing aids, all the way up to medical grade hearing aids. That's just a fantastic offering, and their specific focus on the way they built that and the energy efficiency is something that really allows us to expand that market.
Okay. So and so I guess there's like this is all kind of theming towards like really a turnkey solution that a brands of many different products could be using the same platform, and it's kind of like the standardization so that you don't have so much engineering resources to develop for every unique customer. So in this way, you're able to service the audio market, which a lot of people don't realize that it's very difficult from a semiconductor point of view to service most of the audio brands in the world because they just don't churn enough volume. So platforms are almost essential to launch these solutions to the world.
Yeah, and this is where I think we have a really nice ecosystem with Absolute Audio as a true hearing aid company, but we're also working together with real Bluetooth, let's say, experts in who with skills in miniaturization. So it's really aiming to get a solution to market which is easy to take into manufacturing.
Okay. So Simon, you're pretty quiet, not to put you on the spot, but were there be anything acoustically that you'd like to understand?
One of the things that when we're talking about this hearing aid, there's actually two forms that you're talking about. One would be hearing music or voice in the environment. Another one is actually listening to it through the earbuds. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So there's the transparency mode where you can be at a concert and you want to experience music. And there's, of course, music streaming just from your audio device.
And the kind of processing or enhancement that you do and for both those things is actually different?
Yes, it is. It is different. For live music, compression is much more important. And for the music streaming, the user has control over all these elements with volume control, etc. And when you're listening to a live environment, it's always difficult to work with what you get. There's a lot of leak in from low end which is reaching your ear, regardless how close the earbud is being, and all of these things need to be addressed to get some proper audio reproduction.
And so you mentioned especially listening to live sound or environmental music with hearing aids is particularly bad.
Yeah.
And Why would it be? I mean, you maybe don't know, but why would it be that a hearing aid manufacturer, you touched on it, can't deal with that problem? Or why should that be so different than just listening to voice?
Well, there's a number of elements. First of all, it's what I said earlier. The historical reason for the platforms they used to build their ASICs on, they were really meant and dedicated for speech, and that means that everything that they did, including the amplifier and everything, was really focused at that level, or that frequency range where speech is happening, and the energy efficiency that was necessary to reproduce that. They're still building on these same platforms, and adding music to that really takes a totally different approach. You have to think things differently, and build the devices differently. And what is helping us in a way is that we're building on a mass market product of a market that is like 10-fold or 20-fold or even more the market of hearing aids at the moment. And that means that all these developments that have been put in there are really dedicated for connectivity and everything that is needed for proper music reproduction, because that was the core focus of that product. And the hearing aid was really built for a different product. Mind you that the majority of the market of hearing aids is like 65, 70, age of 65 and 70 plus. And these folks are really not too much into music. There's not much demand for that. Everything is about speech and speech intelligibility, being socially connected to people, being able to take part in family dinners. That's what these devices were built for.
How much of it what is special about a prescription, let's call it, hearing aid compared to an OTC offering? Is there any technical differences?
That's a very good question.
Is there any reason that an OTC hearing aid?
Sorry?
Is there any reason an OTC hearing aid can't offer the same performance as is it called a prescription hearing aid?
From our perspective, maybe you're asking the wrong person. We believe that even a standard earbud is capable of being a high-grade, medical-grade hearing aid, top tier. And we've proven that. I mean, we've done clinical tests where we took a relatively simple earbud running on Qualcomm, where we put our algorithms in, and we tested them against the best hearing aids in the market. And we were at par. We get the same speech intelligibility in a noisy environment as those hearing aids on some simple earbuds. And that just proves that with the right algorithms and the right approach, you can achieve that. So answering your question, I don't think there should be any difference.
And you mentioned briefly people would get an audiogram. So if you go and get medical grade hearing aids, an audiologist will do an assessment of you, and then the hearing aid is tuned to your hearing. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah.
Yep. And you mentioned you have the same capability.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we use an audiogram as input, and we have fitting engines that we've developed ourselves, but we also can incorporate existing fitting engines that are being standardized inside the hearing aid market that are being applied to typical hearing aids. Some countries have regulations that mandate a certain fitting, but other countries are free to provide the fitting that a manufacturer provides.
The fitting being what?
Fitting is really the translation between the audiogram and the setting inside the hearing aid. So how you adapt that hearing loss curve that you get into a setting of, let's say, frequencies in the hearing aid, frequencies and compression and all of that.
Do you have any idea why this is a kind of a regulated product like that?
That's a very good question. I don't think I'm the proper person to answer that, to be honest. From a technology perspective, I don't think there's a reason. From a medical perspective, I'm not a specialist, but I don't see a reason. But I think there's a lot of history there.
Yeah. So protectionist approach, is it?
If you want to put it that way.
Yeah. Excellent.
So would you have and I guess the processing power advancing is that's the big reason that we're able to do a lot of these things now. And so are we talking like if you go to a heavy metal concert, it will be using AI, or do you have default kind of EQs to help balance out the content that you'll be trying to absorb?
Now, the AI that we apply is specifically for the feedback management. That's where you apply AI, and we're starting to apply that also on certain noise reduction schemes. In the music setting environment, our experience is that you want to have an as stable as possible reproduction. You just want to make sure that the sound that reaches your ear is within a proper frequency scale and balance that you need. And that is really where our focus is now. That doesn't really differ too much on styles of music. Of course, it does differ with the guy who's behind the mixing desk inside the venue, but that we cannot affect.
Okay, and in terms of people customizing it to their own taste, is that a part of the deal?
That is what we applied initially for music on the Parrot, so our first generation. Our experience with that is that it's better not to do that. If you provide a stable environment that is balanced, people accept it and are more happy with the product. Because even though there are people who have the ability to really create a proper mix yourself, a lot of people don't. And in all the tests that we've done with consumers as well, is that, you know, if you really get a good reproduction of sound when you have hearing loss, and you really have a good fitting specifically for music on those hearing aids or headphones or earbuds, then it becomes very delicate, like you're in a mixing studio yourself. When you're close, it still sounds kind of mushy. As soon as you really hit the sweet spot in the balance, the music opens up again, and you really get that music experience. And you need to reach that level. If you give the people the ability to change that, it's very likely that they will ruin it for themselves without knowing it.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
Make it work.
I remember working nightclubs, and the sound mixer said, like I was a DJ, but the sound mixer said, "Don't touch the EQ." It was like it locked off because we always monkey with it and ruin the sound. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah. And then you're still lucky if the sound mixer himself doesn't have any hearing loss.
Exactly.
There's a few of these, self-hearing test things going around, available. Do you have any remarks about that? This is where you will, self-calibrate, let's say, your hearing.
Well, no, I don't have. Well, I do have remarks. I have a lot to say about that, to be honest, because in our first product, we did that ourselves. And I developed a hearing test together with a medical university hospital. And we calibrated that onto the Parrot headphones, which are just commercially available headphones for about $200. And we did clinical tests inside the hospital. And we found that even in those full soundproof booths with tens of thousands of dollars of material in there in order to get good medical reproduction that was being accepted, with these simple commercially available headphones, we got exactly the same results. We were really at par with that. So the results from the hearing test was the same. It's just not medically accepted. And we developed a specific hearing test to go with that. And we did self-fit on those on those headphones, but they were for music. They were not for speech. So we could kind of avoid that medical grade certification that was needed. But the results were just identical. And what Apple is now doing, they're really pushing the envelope. So they really, they started off with using third-party kind of hearing tests that you could load onto the Apple medical platform and then get your own fitting that Apple developed themselves onto the AirPods. But nowadays they even provide hearing tests, or you can photograph your audiogram that you got in any hearing aid store, and they will just load that into the earbuds without any medical grade. So they're really pushing that envelope, and I think that's a very good development. Not so much because I want to take it fully out of the medical space. I think there are still some people with hearing loss that need medical attention, so I don't want to move those people out of that zone. But there's a lot of, let's say, in between that people can perfectly do themselves, and there's no reason not to do that.
So that makes it a pretty compelling an argument. There must be a fairly significant population that could get a great advantage from such a thing, purely for music enjoyment.
Not just for music enjoyment, it's also for hearing assist, because there's so many people out there who have hearing loss that's not being addressed. Simply either it's because it's not enough, or they don't even realize it too much. They think it's just to age. I don't want to go to parties anymore. It's tiring, and that's just because it takes so much effort to understand people. So having access to devices at a very low level that you can just put in and test and try out, because really, even if you suspect that, the burden of going to a store where people of age of 70 plus go to get their hearing tested is just too high. People don't do that. And you don't borrow hearing aids to find out what it is like if you can get used to it, because it actually takes a few weeks to really get used to it. It's not like glasses. You put them on and you can see well again. It really takes some time to adapt to that. And so it giving very easy access for people to try it out and experience the advantage and grow into that, because ultimately most people will develop some level of hearing loss over the years.
And there's also an element of cost into this. So if you bring the hearing assist to standard TWS, you're addressing a huge population who would benefit from it. And for that group to go to the store, like Arnout is saying, there's probably a threshold, but the population is huge who would actually benefit from this.
Yeah, I think the classic marketing line for the hearing assist market is that there's a 7-year lag from when people have hearing damage to when they actually pick it up, either because of the stigma of they're getting older or whatnot. But one thing I wanted to ask is, so we're aware of the US changes in the law. Has the EU done something similar yet, or other parts of the world as well?
Well, the OTC is really very specific to the US. Europe does have a CE regulation, which is a certification, which is in a way a bit similar to the FDA. It's slightly different, but there's not too much different. But I'm not aware of discussions going on really to have an OTC category in the same way that the US is having right now. But having said that, how long it will survive in the US, that's also a big question.
Okay. So
is it a factor of how you market the product more so than the capability of it?
In Europe, it's more the capability of it. In the US, it's more how you market the product. So if you give it a certain marketing approach, then it has to be FDA regulated.
Right. But the EU is not that. So if you have a capability to provide hearing enhancement, even although you may not market it as a hearing aid, as a music device, you still have to conform to those regulations?
I'm not entirely sure where the boundaries lie in the EU for that, to be honest. But I know that in the US, if you make certain claims, it has to be, and in Europe, it's more about the product itself.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, in China here, we see the hearing aid market growing as people it's an aging population. Simon's in Japan, so I don't know if he has any insight as to what it's like over there for hard of hearing. Are they?
No idea.
Okay. So yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting discussion, and so where can people find out more about Absolute Audio Labs? On your website, we'll put the information below. And
yeah, on the website, we have a couple of videos where we do some demonstrations. So there's information to be found there. But ultimately, we are not a brand that will market to consumers. Yep. We're selling our algorithms into the market via our partners such as Renesas.
Okay, very good. And Avi, do you have any closing remarks before we say goodbye?
I just sorry, I just have one question. Renesas Bluetooth chip, is that available now, or is that still to be released? I haven't heard about it.
It's not available yet, but it's not too far out either.
Yeah. Well, that's
probably
interesting announcements coming up then, I guess. a new player in the Bluetooth
Yeah,
space.
we're probably taking a little bit of a quiet approach,
Okay.
enabling customer by customer.
Okay. A little bit more conservative. Okay, so everybody, please like, subscribe, and share this out to all your friends. And we look forward to seeing Arnaud maybe next year at the Consumer Electronics Show, and we can hear in secret what brands that they're in, and we can tell people in the hallways. So thanks everybody for watching, and we'll
All
see
right.
you next
Yeah. Thanks so much for inviting us. Really appreciate it. It was good talking to you guys.
time.
Thank
Okay,
you.